safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to a misty morning here in Djuma Private Game Reserve. We're in search of the Nkuhuma Pride. This is Safari Live. Ready?
Standing by.
You are live.
Welcome to, as we said, morning. Although it's still quite warm, it's very humid, 27 degrees Celsius, which is about 74 Fahrenheit. Now, we are searching 78 Fahrenheit, I do beg your pardon. We're searching Pride, which were in Sibambili yesterday, so I'm going to be checking our western boundary. Remember, if you've got any questions for any of us who are wandering around in the wilderness, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or questions at WildEarthTV. I have Dangerous Dave, the Dish, on camera with me today, and we're hoping we're going to bring you some fantastic wildlife. If we can't find any big cats, we'll have to settle for some birds and some bees and some other things, but I'm hoping if I get tracks, I won't let them go till we find them. Now, as you can see, quite a wind going. Apparently it's raining down where James is. At the moment we are bone dry, although I do seem to have luck when it comes to the rain, aren't you? I seem to manage to needle my way through the rainy bits most of the time. What was having a party on the road? Let's have a quick proper look. Something was having a party on the road, yeah. Lying down, I thought... see, that's from an elephant. I thought it might be a lion's tail for a second. It was a hyena party. So it looks like a couple of hyenas were lying here, two at least. Now, I don't know if in this low light if we're going to see it nicely. So it's very indescript, but that's because it was moving quite quickly. But that is a hyena track. Now, there's the back pad, sort of like that, and then the toes almost all merge into one there. So this was a hyena party, not a lion party. James is looking for hyena parties. We are looking for lion parties this morning. Now, we're going to keep searching for the Nkuhumas. While we'll do that, let's go across to James's party. And of course, there was definitely a party last night because it was Jerry's birthday. But now let's carry on with our animal party for the morning.
Party, party, party. Good morning, everybody. Those of you who didn't see me in the pre-show, hello. I'm now talking in a slightly more normal fashion. I hope that you are all very well wherever you happen to be in the world. My name is James Hendry, and I will be 1/3 of your guiding team this morning during the course of our 3-hour safari. Hashtag Safari Live is how you get hold of us on Twitter. Otherwise, questions at WildEarthTV is how you get hold of us on the email. My plan this morning is to find, hopefully some more active hyena dens, and then just patrol the southern boundary to see if perhaps Karula, the queen, has not come back across to the north. Now, yesterday evening, she killed a small kudu to the south of us. She took Xongile with her. We did not see her take Hosana with her, and she seemed to be looking for him. Now, there are two reasons I might expect to find her back here. One is that she might still be looking for her son. It was a baby kudu, which I don't think she'd hoisted. And given the much greater numbers of hyenas that we've had around here of late, it's on here of late. would have been stolen. So we will see as the morning unfolds. I don't have any tracks of either of those things right now, but we are going to now turn off-road towards this newish hyena den, at which only one hyena has been seen, and that was by Herbert on foot. We have yet to see one here in the vehicle, so let's go and have a look now. I'm sure you'll all be quite excited to see a new hyena den, especially if it's got baby hyenas in it. Now we're going to approach very slowly and with great care, because if they are there, they might be a little bit frightened, because they wouldn't have experienced too many vehicles around a den, perhaps. Now what it is, it's quite a nice little spot they've got here. There's a termite mound that's sort of built into the bank of this drainage line down here, and the opening is actually on the other side, but I've come in this way because yesterday we did this and there was a lot of flattened ground and a lot of activity on the top of this little termite mound. Now, there's nothing going on here at the moment. We'll just have a quick look. So there in front of me is the mound. So we'll check down both sides. There. No, it's a southern boo-boo. You see the bird there, Craig? Just on the edge of the bush there. Just zoom in there. And then keep going. There, you've got him. That is a southern boo-boo, everybody. And unless the southern boo-boo is in this sort of very enthusiastically looking for hyenas, I'm not sure that there are any hyenas here. So the entrance to the den, if it is a den, it certainly was a den, is just round the corner there. And it's not possible, I don't think, to see it from here. So we'll just go around, but I don't think there's anything here now, unless there's a mother inside the den, which is possible. Right, quickly head across to Brent. He's got some lions.
Oh, they're crossing. No, come back. Ooh, they're looking very nervous, the Nkuhumas. I just saw all the cubs. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4 females. Are there males behind them? Is that what's causing the nerves? They look like they can hear something that I can't. So they were crossing into Djuma, and suddenly they just turned around. There they are. Rex, we've got the Nkuhumas on Triple M, One Eye Pan Road. Look at that. There they are. We haven't seen them in a while. Now you can see they're looking quite jumpy. They're looking back towards the sort of northeast of us. You can see some of the cubs moving. No, lions. Come back, lions. Well, at least what we set out to do, we achieved. I might go check around Sydney's waterhole. That's where they keep looking back towards, after we lose sight of them, of course. We just go see if we can get a better view from... looking very jumpy. I see they're lying down in those thickets there. They're moving a little bit further to the west now. Now, of course, with all the male lion movements happening at the moment, it is quite difficult for them. They're sort of trying to avoid all the lions and moving between the different males. Of course, the Birmingham boys should be back on their way. I wonder where they are going to be. And let's just try see if we can get another view from a little bit of a different angle. Stations in the west located in Nkuhuma Pride, crossing into Sibambili at Wanaipan. Okay, let's see if there's maybe one on the road. No, none out in the open there. Cam was wondering, are the lions on a non-traverse area for us? They are indeed, Cam, unfortunately. So they came out of Djuma at quite some speed. Now, I'm wondering what could have spooked them. Let's have a quick look. If there's a tunnel through the there they are. They're still moving, Dave. Yes, there we go. They're moving further. Let me just see if there might be a bit of a better gap up here. Oh, I can just see them disappearing. Just a little bit to the right there. No, a little bit too much to the right. There we go. I had a visual of one, but now they are gone. Oh dear. Hopefully they'll be back. There we go. There we go. There's the disappearing bottom of a lioness. Okay, now what to look for next? Lion tick, but unfortunately not the best sighting. You can see where they were sleeping last night. And this lion, you can see they're having a big party here. And you can see all the tail marks like there, those little drags there are from the tail. So they were obviously sleeping here, and then something spooked them. And they disappeared into Sibambili. Okay. Well, lion party has left the building. Let's see if the hyena party is still around.
The lion party sounds extraordinarily good, but really bad that they've left. That's very unkind of them, inconsiderate, very mean of the Nkuhuma Pride. This is the hole I was talking about, and it's very difficult to get a kind of decent camera angle on it, but I will say that there is no hyena activity here now, but that there has been. Now, what I think is going on here is that we've got a situation where, of course, like Gwen, the subdominant females or the subordinate females will come and move away from the main clan to give birth. And I think what we've got here is a situation where one or two or even three subordinate females have come to give birth on their own in little dens like this. There's no question that 3 or 4 termite mounds around here have been investigated like this. This, to me, looks to be the most active one, or the most obviously excavated one. And it's difficult to see from here, but there's very little vegetation actually around the hole. There's a very clear path going up and down, over and around. So I think we're just going to have to patiently come and check this. Now, Lisa, you're wondering, how many hyenas usually den at one site? Lisa, it very much depends on who's denning. So if they're at a den and the matriarch, for example, has given birth, then you'll find sometimes the whole clan or all the females in the clan can be around there. But if it's a subordinate female and very low ranking, then she'll come and she'll give birth on her own. And until the cubs are big enough to sort of fend for themselves, well, not fend for themselves, but ward off the bullying efforts of more dominant cubs, then she'll stay on her own, and that can be for up to sort of 2 months at a time sometimes. Normally not quite that long, but it can be that long. I mean, last year also we had, I think when Madam gave birth, she of course is the dominant female, the matriarch, she also extracted and gave birth on her own in the den off Philemon's cutline. So it's entirely possible that this isn't a subordinate female. I just think that given where Gwen is, of course, off to the eastern side, and we've had 3 or 4 different hyenas around this den, and in this vicinity, it tracks everywhere. But we haven't had actually a hyena. Herbert is the only one who saw a hyena here, and he saw it on foot. So we're going to have to now extract from this position and see if we can make our way perhaps across to Gwen's den. Why is this game not doing that? That's all right. And while we do that, walking around in her size, probably size 3 boots, very bushy gaiters she's got on. I'll ask her to show you those. I need to get some. They're very wise sort of addition to the bush clothing. Let's head across to her now, and I will see you hopefully out of this ravine.
And James is absolutely right. I am very thrilled to have refound my very bushy gaiters and very what did James say? Very sensible option out here whilst walking in the bush. But a very good morning to you all. My name is Jamie, and this morning VM is on camera with me. And of course, we are ably assisted by Herbie, who has disappeared. I was going to introduce you to him, but he has gone vanishing up the road. Now, Herbie helps to keep ahead of us, make sure that when VM is walking backwards, for example, as he is now, he doesn't say, for example, walking to a buffalo or an elephant or something of that sort of, along those ilk. Now, we've heard exciting things about the Nkuhumas and the fact that they were almost on Djuma. Such a pity that they raced onto Simbambili, because it feels like forever since we last saw them. But what we're doing is we're just heading into that area to see why it is they might be feeling a little bit nervous. Perhaps there's a reason for it. Could be hyenas, could be potentially the Matimbas, who've been up near the Manyuleti boundary. So fingers crossed we find something interesting and exciting there. Otherwise, for those of you that are new to these sunrise safaris, the bushwalk is a great way to find some of the smaller things. Tristan had a black mamba on his walk yesterday, so there's all sorts of exciting things that you can and do encounter. And don't forget, on your live safari, that you can send through your questions on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. And Herbie has already ably found us something. Jeepers. Herbie, are we going to track it now? Which way is this going? It's a snake. And I'm just trying to see, that's the sort of defining way. With a puff adder, you can usually see the drag of their tiny little stubby tails, and I think that's that over there. I could be wrong. It could be a python. Herbie's looking for it. You found it? Did you find it? No. Herbie's giving me a thumbs up. But it seems as though this particular snake has gone wandering off into the bush. Tracking a snake? It would be a first for me. Looked at snake tracks, never actually tried to track one down. This is a very, very nice snake track that's along the road. Other snake tracks, of course, our usual snakes, move in a serpentine motion. So their track is a sort of a twisty track, and you can usually see which direction they're going in just by the pushing up against the sand. So if it's going this way, for example, it pushes there, pushes down there, pushes against there, pushes against there, and so on. So that's how it does its forward motion. And so you can see very, very clearly which direction that track has gone in. Be nice to track down a snake. I haven't seen a big puff adder in a while. Sorry, I'm clutching the rain cover, and James had us panicking because we thought it was going to start pouring down upon our heads. But it hasn't. So I've now got said rain cover in my hand. The track's going this way. Let's just see if it goes across the other side of the road, just for interest's sake. See if it's popped out there or if it's hiding somewhere in the holes. there's a chance it's gone somewhere into the termite holes over there. And welcome to, there it goes. Chook, 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 chook. Phew, very unclear in this morning light. Now, of course, flies. Now, of course, one of the ways that we look for game is to go tracking. Consulting a detective, living up to your name, you want to know whether or not we ever use camera traps on long game paths. Brent and I own camera traps. They're currently occupied. They're set up at our house in Hoedspruit in order to see whether or not the resident leopard is going to come and visit us. We've had it calling outside our house a few times, and we're just waiting to see whether or not it decides to pop out next to us. So that's where our camera traps are. We have utilized them. I'll tell you a secret. Oh, my apologies, M. Ruth. I thought it was consulting detective. I thought that was very convenient. But, no, M. Ruth, apologies. It was you that asked that question. Go away, flies. I'll tell you a secret. Brent, don't tell anyone I told you this. When Brent sets up his camera trap, he's very, very good. And I mean, I've worked a lot with camera traps working with Panthera and so on in the past. He's very good at, I'm not quite sure how, but somehow something always happens. That, for example, he puts it too close to a blade of grass that goes like this in front of the motion sensor, and then we get 500 pictures every single time of grass going like this in the wind. I mean, and the other thing he has a tendency to do is put it very low. But yes, we do put up camera traps. We found some interesting things going past our house, including some ladies going on their morning stroll, all sorts of exciting things that pop out of the woodwork. So we don't have any camera traps here at the moment, but we've all used them in the past. They're very, very useful. You've got to be careful with camera traps because there's nothing a hyena loves more than a camera trap. So you can have big steel protective boxes. And the camera traps that I've worked with in the past, we put up 100 camera traps. Very expensive camera traps. Thanks to Panthera, in order to get an idea of the leopard population in that area. And we set up, so if for example you had a road like this, there'd be one here, and then one sort of also facing that direction but at a slight angle, and set up at various game paths, causeways, roads, places where you would expect a leopard to walk. Got the most amazing pictures. We had a hyena carrying a hyena's head before. That was one of the things that we saw. Genet families. We had, one of my favorites was, what was it again? The various animals at night, because these cameras had serious flashes, and you'd see them in various positions, sort of caught mid-flash jumping, and they'd be caught in sort of like this, or racing away from the camera trap flash. So that terrified them. Other thing that we caught is an aardvark racing across in front of the camera trap. So they are real, regardless of whether or not I've actually seen them. They do actually exist. Bush babies, and one very unfortunate time, legs of poachers that we then tried to track down. So camera traps, unbelievably useful, but not something that we're utilizing at the moment. It would be useful to stick up outside hyena dens, would it not? Perhaps to see what's living there. Let's go and find out who's in residence with James.
Well, this is what we'd have found on a camera trap at this particular den here. A little dwarf mongoose, not a hyena cub. And it's the same dwarf mongoose troop that we found here on foot the other day when we came to check this den. It's the one off Philemon's dip, or Philemon's cutline. And it's definitely been excavated very recently. But the troop of dwarf mongoose is still resident here, which makes me think that the hyenas are possibly not going to use this den site at the moment. Look at that sweet little thing. There are definitely no baby hyenas in the back of that den. So I've now checked all three of the ones around this area. There is no further activity in them. I'm not sure what that means. I'm really slightly confused as to what they're doing, but we will keep trying to unravel the mysteries of the great hyena clan. Now look over here. Do you see that, Craig? That, everyone, believe it or not, is an arachnid. was an arachnid, yes, a spider that was living here in the vehicle, which is now living on the chair somewhere. Anyway, so I'm afraid it is not there anymore. Let us continue. I'm in two minds. I think we'll probably head towards Gwen's den now via Twin Dams and see what's happening that side. And Michael, you wanted to go and see Gwen's den. Well, that's what we'll do, Michael, on account of the fact that you wanted to see it. Then we might, if we become totally desperate, check out the den off Philemon's, at least off Rebecca's Road, which is off that side. I think that's unlikely to be occupied though, but I might be wrong. Now, Nurble, a very common question is, do hyenas get defensive around their dens? And the answer, Nurble, is no, not usually. And the simple reason for that is that they have a strategy for not defending the den. If there are little cubs, the cubs will disappear into the termite mound, where they're normally safe from most predators, and the adults will just move off. And so I've seen, for example, 3 lionesses of the Nkuhumas approaching a den site occupied by our Djuma clan of hyenas. I'm being savaged by flies. And they simply disappeared. They walked away, and the lions investigated and stuck their noses into the termite mound where the little babies were, and I think there were 3 cubs down of various ages down in the bottom of the hole, and the lions are too big to get in and pull them out, and so the adults just moved off and stayed away, and then when the lions had grown bored and headed on, the adults came back, and that's quite common. If there is too much pressure on a den, apparently what it can happen that the hyenas will just abandon it, and they will abandon babies in it. So if the lions continuously keep coming back and checking what's going on and there is sufficient threat, the hyenas will just abandon the den and leave the babies. Now, they don't have that reaction to us. They do on foot, so we wouldn't visit hyena dens on foot by default. Looking for more tracks. Now, DHJ Horswell, is it Horswell or Hothwell? I can't hear that. I think it's Hothwell with a TH. Right, Horswell. DHJ Horswell, you say, do mongoose steal dens by as a matter of course, or do they excavate those huge holes themselves? A mongoose would have taken roughly the same time as we as human beings took to dig the Great Kimberley Hole if it had tried to excavate that hole on its own. No, that hole was originally excavated by an aardvark or ant bear, and it's got obviously the equipment to do it, great big claws on the front of its hands, and that's what it uses to break open the termite mounds and get to the termites. That will then be used by numerous other animals, including warthogs, wild dogs, hyenas, and in this case a dwarf mongoose. But the mongoose are not actually living inside that den. They have got a network of little tunnels that go around the side of that particular hole, and I've seen where they live. They don't like to be in a den like that because they're too small, which means it's much too easy for something to get in there and fish them out. So they go into much smaller holes normally, and they'll investigate holes like that for little insects that may have gone in that they can try and eat. But normally they won't actually live in a big hole like that, and they don't excavate themselves. They will probably modify some of the holes that they use, but they don't excavate them necessarily themselves. There you go, DHJ Horswell. It's a wonderful name you have. There's quite an interesting sight there of a vehicle off-road. I wonder what they're looking at. It's a giraffe. Let's see if we can get a view of this giraffe. I can't see. I think we're going to go around the corner. We might be lucky. There it is. It's moving off this way. Can you see it, Craig? It's that sort of 3.5 meter animal over there. That's now gone behind a bush, typically, which makes me very irritated. Sorry, Craig. Let's keep going. What a deeply irksome giraffe. No, I just don't think we're going to get a view of that one, I'm afraid. Sorry about that, everyone. We'll have to try another one. Giraffe, of course, one of the most, I think, amazing animals to look at. There's the top of its head, Craig. Can you see it there? At least it's our second mammal sighting of the day. Can you see it? Ah, there we go. A classic example of what is not camouflage, but simply a game of hide and seek. There we are. She's taken one look at Batman and thought, I like that, and she's on her way towards us. Thomas, you say, could this be the one with the baby? Yes, it could, Thomas. In fact, it's quite likely, given that there has been a little one around here. Ooh, she really does like Craig. Craig, you better watch out. This giraffe's taken a fancy to you. She is indeed a Batman fan, as Kirsten says. Craig, by the way, is on camera, and he looks like Batman. Although he had a root canal yesterday, so he's feeling a bit sorry for himself. Look at this, it's wonderful. Odessa, you're wondering about the different species of giraffe and whether we get, whether there's only one species or many species. There's only one species, really. And I can never remember all of the different subspecies, and it changes constantly as to how many people decide that there are. At the moment, there are 9 subspecies of giraffe. The Nubian giraffe, which is found... Oh, you know what? This has actually changed. This has changed recently. They've actually agglomerated a few of the subspecies, and I think there are actually only now 4. That's right. There are 4 described subspecies, if I'm not mistaken. This is the southern giraffe. That's right. The Maasai giraffe remains a subspecies, I think. It's all rather confusing. There were 3 or 4 down in the south here, including the Angolan giraffe. I think they're all now included into the southern giraffe subspecies. I will have to do a little bit of research on that again. I can't believe I've forgotten it. Yeah, the latest thinking is that there are 4 subspecies of giraffe. Some of them might indeed be different species. Is that correct? No. Somebody needs to check this. There we go. James, you say you've heard the giraffe smell quite pungent. James, I've had trackers that have said that they can smell giraffe. I personally have never smelt one. And I have got a very sensitive nose, but I can't remember a time that I've ever smelt a giraffe. There we are. It's all sort of slowly coming back to me. I think that this species is now called, or the subspecies is Giraffa, that's the genus. The species is Giraffa again, and I think we also get the nominate subspecies as well. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is Giraffa. That was my telephone talking to me, everyone. I'm not sure why it was doing that. And then the one we had up in, I loved the one up in East Africa. It was Giraffa tippleskirchi. I will check this up for you, though, because it is unacceptable that I have managed to forget it. I don't see the little baby, but it's not unusual for them not to have the babies with them, because they will often sort of lie down somewhere close by while Mum feeds. Leo Smith is hailing me on the radio. Go ahead. Right, an update. Copy, thank you very much. An update from the eastern side of the reserve, or down to the south actually, is that Karula and the two cubs are still on their kudu carcass, so it was not stolen by the hyenas. We won't be seeing them today. Alas and alack, we'll have to just keep on looking for other things. Oh dear, sounds very scary indeed. It would seem that VM, who was on camera with Jamie, has been attacked.
VM has indeed been attacked, and we've stumbled into what I can only describe as a road network of these termites that are gathered together, and we're busy standing here mapping out the patterns and the roads and the way that these termites are moving from place to place and the way that it's formulated. And honestly, it really does look like a road map. And as VM said, it almost looks like the changing of a shift. The night shift is over and the morning shift is on its way. And all of the little workers, the tiniest ones, being gathered together and directed by the larger tank-like soldiers that are gathered around them. And while we were struck by the fascinating sight of these termites dashing about, poor Viam was struck down by a vicious bite to his calf. The termite managed to creep up under his trousers and nip him on the leg. Eventually, it was clinging on there. Eventually, we had to flick it off. But it drew blood. So VM is grievously injured. Are you going to make the rest of the walk, or shall we?
I've got an injury on duty now.
Yeah, injury on duty. We better head back. Put you to bed.
No, so much paperwork.
Too much paperwork. Okay, that's fair enough. But it really does look like a road network, and already it's quietened down. But it's fascinating to witness. It's like there's different parts of the town and different highways. There's the N4 and the N12 and all sorts of highways like that. And I think the reason that they're here is they're after the thatching grass, which has been trodden on by an elephant and which has died. And that is what they're after. And because it's cool and cloudy, that's why we're seeing so many of them gathering together like this, collecting up tiny bits, mouthful by mouthful, each little worker. Wouldn't it be amazing to know exactly how much of the stuff they carry in one night? How much of the wood, what biomass is collected by one set of, I'm being very careful not to stand on them, and also not get bitten by one. What sort of biomass is collected by a colony of termites like this and taken back inside there underneath the surface of the soil? And I'm looking to see if I can see a mound that they're associated with, but it doesn't seem to be. But underneath me, I know there is a network of tunnels, and what we're seeing above here is nothing compared to what's below the surface of the soil. And absolutely everywhere we look, I know we focus on termites a lot, but they are fascinating, and it feels as though every time we go out, especially on cloudy days, we see new and interesting types of behavior. Like the fact that every highway, and I'm calling them highways because that's what it feels like, every single highway is protected by one or two of those really big soldier termites with their massive jaws. Thank goodness it wasn't a big soldier, Viam, that got hold of you.
I was thinking the same thing.
I know, and one was going for me, one was going for Viam. They're savage, but they're also protecting their termite mound. There's networks here. It really is. It's utterly fascinating. And every single plant is falling victim to the termites clamping down on them. Amazing. Really, truly amazing. And it's vast. And probably from where I'm trying to think what sort of... It's probably about 12, maybe even more. Maybe 15 square meters of termite coverage. I'll take that back. I'm going to say 20 square meters of... I don't know why I can't convert that. Converting square meters to feet or something is beyond me. Oh, hello. And it's amazing how they pick up the vibrations of the... Look at this. Have a look here. Sorry, Wiem, you have to pick your way through the angry termites. Watch how they pick up vibrations. I'm going to stomp my foot, and you'll see the reaction. Oops, sorry. Behind the antenna. Watch this. Can hear them hiss. The entire area around me reacts when I do that. I'm not stomping on a termite, I'm just stomping on the ground, and I can actually hear them. I'm going to try and get my microphone closer so that you can hear the hissing or the rattling. Can you hear that at all? Amazing. Absolutely amazing to see that reaction. Vibration through the soil, and of course they'll respond to the sound, not the sound of my voice, what's the word? Carbon dioxide coming from us as well. I find this, I could actually honestly sit and watch this system for hours. We have a question about whether or not, not whether or not, how long a termite will live for. And that's from D.H.J. Hawkins? It's either D.H.K. Horses. It is horses. I thought I heard that wrong. DHK horses. You want to know how long they live? It depends on the type of termite. So it will range from a couple of weeks to a couple of months for the larger ones, and then a couple of years for the really truly important ones, like the queen. If I'm remembering correctly, a termite queen can live for quite a long time. It's fascinating to watch, but it's also interesting. They don't see well at all. They just bite. Diana, how weird that you should ask that exact question as I said that. You want to know if termites have no eyes? I don't think that they do, really. At least if they do, I'm not sure, and to be honest, I don't really want to pick one up to examine it. I think that if they do, they are very much reduced. Very little of... It doesn't make sense for them to have good eyesight. They spend most of their time underneath the surface of the soil. Everything must be scent-based. Sensory, but not based on sight. I don't know if they have eyes or if they're they probably do in a very rudimentary way. They must have eyes in a rudimentary way. Those of you perhaps more familiar with the anatomy of the termite can let me know. But if you watch the way that they react, it's a blind reaction almost. You know, if I go in here, they all start to launch themselves as if to bite, but they don't actually know where they're aiming. It's blind panic more than anything else, and the soldiers just start attacking anything that happens to be there. And the reason I think that look at this. The reason that I think that they went for Wiem is smell. I think that they just...
Hey.
No offense meant. They went for me too, Wiem, it's okay. Not that Wiem is a particularly smelly individual, but I don't think the soldier looked at Viem's calf and went, that would be a nice breakfast. All responding to the carbon dioxide we're producing now that we're close. Completely creates chaos in their ordered roads. Now, Umka, you want to know with the termite queen, and of course everything around that we're watching now is geared towards the queen, and she is constantly replenishing the stocks of termites that are lost throughout the day. You want to know if they will follow their queen if she's taken away in the way that honeybees do. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I actually think that the termite colonies, once the queen goes, I don't know if perhaps there's an inheritor. I don't think they follow her because they don't have quite the same ability to do so. They can't fly, so it's a lot harder for them to relocate the queen. I've heard of termite colonies being destroyed by the death of their queen, but I'm not sure about what exactly happens once the queen dies or once the queen is removed. It'd be very, very interesting to know. The more I watch termites, the more I realize I don't actually understand about them or know about them, which I find instantly intriguing, truly fascinating the way in which they function. I also thought about that, Michael. You want to know if the workers at VM, and I were just discussing this, funnily enough, the changing of the shift. Michael wants to know, do we think if there is some kind of work schedule so that the workers aren't overworked? No, I think that they just work until they die. But it's an intriguing thought, imagining a termite union, a workers' union for termites. Can you imagine? The end of the termite colony. The workers have thrown it up. They say we only want to work 8 hours a day, otherwise you've got to pay us overtime. We refuse to work all night because, of course, these guys are now working overtime because it's cloudy this morning. If it was sunny, they'd all be underneath the surface of the soil, but because it's cloudy, it means they can work more. I think when it is very sunny, they'll go beneath the surface of the soil, but I imagine that they're still working, still shifting things. So workers are completely replaceable. The queen is churning out eggs constantly. I don't think they're too concerned about workers' rights in a termite colony. I think essentially they work till they drop. Interesting thought. Imagine trying... We thought, Steph, arranging our leave cycles is difficult. Can you imagine trying to arrange a working shift for termites? Right, you 350, you're on from 6 in the morning. And the rest of you can... Oh, that's very interesting. The rest of you are on from... I don't know. Imagine that spreadsheet. We'd have to get Geraldine Kent on it. By the way, it was her birthday yesterday, so happy birthday, Jerry. It sounds as though there's some very exciting news. Looks as though James has caught up with some very special creatures.
There we go, everybody. I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to go south or north, but there are the royal family, those little spots in front of the vehicle. Little spots with their own spots. And all three of them were here. Karula's on the left, Xongile on the right, Xongile in the middle, and here comes little Hosana from the left. Oh, look. Isn't that cool? Just wonderful. And this is great because they're in the open so we can see the different sizes. And just quickly, if you are a new viewer, these are the kind of stars of our show, really. On the right-hand side, Karula the Queen, coming up on her 13th birthday next month. That's her there. In front, the very elegant Xongile. Reminds me quite a lot of Jamie, really. And then to the left of that, we've got Hosana, who's a very stocky little fellow for his age. He's not tall, or he's not short, but he's very stocky. And they have just passed their first birthday. Let's see if we can't get around the front of them. I think they're probably going back to the carcass, and I suspect they were probably having a drink somewhere around here, perhaps even a treehouse dam. They're becoming more and more independent as the days go by, and of course eventually they are going to decide to leave us, unfortunately. But that is the way of things with the leopard. Now this isn't going to be the best view of them, but they're going to walk straight past the front of the car eventually. There they are there. And I don't want to go any further forward, we'll block the view from the other guests. There we go. Is that not fun to have our little royal family with us today? Marvellous stuff. Karula cleaning her recalcitrant little boy, and now Xongile is sitting off to the side and waiting patiently for her brother and mother, to get up and move. There she is. She's just looking up into that vehicle. I know this isn't the best view, everyone, but they are on... I suppose I could go down onto the road, but here comes little Xongile, so let's wait for her. I think she's getting a little irritated with Mum and brother. A wonderful question. Well, the question's good, but the name is better. Sofa-tato. Sofa-tato, you want to know how many males Karula the Queen has mated with? Sofa-tato, you'd be shocked if I told you. Sofa-tato, we don't know at this stage. I think at least 5. There's definitely been Tingana. Maybe it's not quite as many as 5. There's definitely been Mvula. The father of the litter before quarantine in Nkuhuma was a chap called... What was he called? He's from the far north. The Jordaan's male, I think. And there will probably have been 1 or 2 others. So at least 3 that I know of, which means that there are definitely more than that. All right, we're going to move a little bit because it's obviously not the best view in the world here. So let's just reverse slowly back. So sofa-tato, that's normally the case, that a female will mate with different males, but that's because, of course, the dominance hierarchy amongst the males changes more frequently than it does with the females. And so, this is beautiful, look at that. There they go, all 3 of them. And so it means that every time she comes into estrus, or quite often, a new male will be the dominant when she comes into estrus each time. And then sometimes they will mate with multiple males during one estrus period. This is wonderful. Soraya, you say, how will Hosana react when mum is not feeding him? Soraya, he's already kind of half feeding himself. The process of independence amongst these leopards is very much... please excuse the power lines coming up here. It's a subtle process. It doesn't take place quickly, and what that means is that when they do go independent, they've already made many kills on their own, and so a little bit like we've had times. Jeepers, that game drive radio is deeply loud. What happens is they spend more and more time independently. Oh, hello, boy. There's brother and sister here. So they spend more and more time on their own, hunting and doing bits and pieces while their mum goes hunting looking for them. And eventually they just don't come back. Eventually mum doesn't look for them anymore, and by then they're so used to being on their own that it doesn't actually make a difference to them. Isn't this fantastic? I can't believe our luck today. Hello, little fellow. They have been eating themselves to pieces. May you say, will we see Xongile's cubs when she's old enough to have them? Yes, I suppose we would. If she sets up a territory close to her mother's, I have no reason to believe that she wouldn't. And certainly, if trends continue and we manage to keep increasing our traversing as we have over the last little while, well, chances are we will almost certainly have her within our traversing, and that means we'll see her little cubs. That's not for some time, though. Here comes the long-suffering mother. Oh, this is wonderful. She's going to say hello to a little boy again. Jamie, you say, does it look like Karula favours one of the cubs over the other? That's a really interesting question. No, I don't think it does. I mean, I'd love to hear from you guys. You guys have watched them as much as I have, in fact more, because you watch them even when other guides are watching them. I don't think that there is any favouritism showed, but I'd love to know what you think. She does this with all of them, with both of them, and sometimes she'll be more with one than the other. Generally, no, I wouldn't say that there's any favouritism shown. This is a very sighting we're having here. And while this is cleaning, of course, it is largely just affection. Look at the blood on her neck. That's quite interesting, actually. Just get right in there, Craig, if you can. That's a wound. She's been cut there. I seriously doubt it was by one of these guys, and I wonder if it wasn't during the course of hunting that kudu. Or perhaps they've lost the meal. Maybe she took a bit of a hit from a hyena or something like that. Oh, now she's cleaning her little boy. My mother still tells me what I should, when I should and shouldn't clean, and you know, that sort of thing. So it's perfectly normal. This is very cool. Mothers are always fascinated that their sons, of course, should have clean ears. As I say, my mother exactly the same. Look at his little jaws, his little teeth. They're not so little anymore, are they? He's making little grunts you can't hear. He's going, oh, oh, oh. There we go. That's beautiful. Now, the good news here, everyone, is that they're moving north into Djuma, which means we might be able to stay with them. We might have to leave. We might have to leave fairly shortly if they don't move, because I don't want them to be crowded out here. And there are lots of other people waiting to try and get into the sighting. Let's just move to the side, yeah? There we go. This is fantastic. Yeah, Holly, I agree. Holly, you reckon she cares for them equally, but that Hosana behaves like a big baby around her. I agree. Hosana definitely loves his mum very much indeed. She has swapped there, hasn't she? She's now with the little one, with Xongile. And Xongile is playing nursemaid to her mother, which of course is what daughters do. And now little Xongile going across to have an investigation. Look. And look how elegant the little one is. She's so petite. Courtney, no. In the same way that a house cat doesn't, you say, does a leopard ever drag its tail on the ground? No, they don't. They don't. They hold them up. No, I think they may. Oh, now they look like they're going to go south. We don't want them to do that. We want them to stay to the north. Right, everybody, I think we're probably going to have to move out at some stage fairly soon. just to make some space here. Although no, there are only 3 of us here now. We're okay now. Oh, this is wonderful. Sorry, I know I sound a little bit distracted, but the Game Drive radio is going fairly ballistic in my ear. That's because, of course, these are very popular animals and everyone wants to see them. What we're going to do, I tell you what, we're going to move on to the fire break, which is just off here. And then we may or may not lose visual of them. But at least we'll be able to see as and when they are sort of still on Djuma or not still on Djuma. Watch heads, everyone. I think that's probably going to be it for this next little while. We'll just keep an eye out on where they go. They may well be going straight back to the kill. Maybe it hasn't been stolen. While I figure out what's going on here, Jamie's got some interesting 6-legged things that she'd like to show you.
A series of interesting 6-legged things, and in fact, a dance of death between 2 different species with 6 legs. One is a pirate fly, the other is an ant. And I've been sitting watching completely... I told you that was going to happen, Liam. Told you so! We've been sitting here for the last, 10 or so minutes while you've been with the royal family, just utterly intrigued by the goings-on. I cannot believe it. I don't believe it. No, come on. Really? 2 minutes ago, this entire patch of ants was swarming with these pirate flies, and we've been watching them pick... Here we go, they're back again. There we go, now we're back. Been watching them pick off the ants one by one by one. But it's such a delicate dance, because as soon as they obviously are used to avoiding being overwhelmed by the ants themselves. So as soon as an ant approaches them, they do a little dance in order to avoid being caught up or running the risk of being caught by the ants, and then targeting individuals. And it's utterly fascinating to watch. We've watched them kill, while we've been sitting here, probably about 20, 30 ants, easily, and they disappear. They vacuumed up in the speed of an eye. This is definitely something that A Bug's Life, that was it a Pixar movie, A Bug's Life never taught me, and just how terrifying the lives of ants can really be. I thought those locusts were scary in that movie. Look at it, but no, never mind. You can see that it's such a delicate dance that they do. They've got to dodge the ants. Chuk, chuk, chuk. Never once have I seen an ant get close enough to touch the fly, unless it's being eaten. As soon as it goes near their legs, they dance away. And I've been trying to watch to see if there's a pattern to the ants' movements. I can't even work out why they're out in the first place. They're all just swarming around in a sort of directionless manner, and it makes them such sitting targets for these flies. And me, actually. Fly just flew up my nose. I'm just waiting to see. I want you to see the speed with which they catch them and eat them. It's astounding. Dance, dance, dance. Come on. I think they're starting to get full now. They must surely be. They have been gorging themselves on these ants for ages now. And you wonder at the process, you wonder what goes through their minds, however big they may be. What makes one ant a better victim than another? Surely that would have been the perfect catch that fly just avoided. What are they looking for? They're trying to sneak up behind the ants when the ants' backs are turned? What changes when they go for one of them? I can't work it out. It all happens so quickly that it's difficult to see the pattern. But you'd think, I mean, these ants are walking right underneath this fly's nose, and yet they only go for certain ones. No, don't come for me. I will not be bitten by one of you. Oh dear. All gone. Again. I promise you we watched about 30 kills. And just a few, I don't know, 5 feet away is another ant's nest with a different species of ant that are slightly larger, and the flies haven't gone anywhere near them. But Herbie says he's watched them before hunting termites, so they're big enough, the flies are big enough, they're about the size of my fingernail, so they're quite large flies. And what's interesting is that they're obviously not the type of fly that, we were talking about it earlier, that will essentially regurgitate stomach acid and soften the food first before slurping it up through the proboscis. These guys have clearly got proper chewing mouth parts. Of course, insects do come with different types of mouth parts. Now they've all gone, VM. We knew that was going to happen. It's quite devastating. Just wait to see if one of them might come back. Perhaps that big fat one. No, big fat one is distracted. Oh well, I guess the feeding frenzy is over. No, hold on, they arrived back here. I also can't understand why they don't go to the outskirts. If they're looking to avoid ants but catch them at the same time, if that makes sense, then why not go to the outskirts where there aren't as many ants? Which is what some of them are doing, I suppose. Come on. Yes, catch it. And they also seem to set their sights on one and then, there, got it. Oh, let it go. Oh, chased away. They set their sights on a target. Why do they let go sometimes is the other thing I can't understand. It's obviously a risk. They're scared of being overwhelmed by the ants. It really is a dance. There's some sort of coordination here. Got it again? They're trying to avoid being bitten, I guess, because as soon as the captured ant turns round, the fly drops it. So they obviously have to get their mouth parts in exactly the right place, which presumably would be behind the head of the ant. It's intriguing. Utterly intriguing. This one's decided it's taking a break now. It's flown to where there aren't any ants at all. VM, I think that termite that's in that's over there, I think that's been on you the entire time. I just saw it come away from your shoe. Okay, well, we're going to move on from our intriguing battle of life and death with these insects. In the meantime, let's go see what else is out there.
Well, what else is out there, everyone, is that the 2 cubs have come north onto Djuma. Brilliant news. Karula still on the boundary, with these chaps still here, and having a very pleasant little drink. And you might recognize this area. This is where they were cavorting around. When was it? It was the 3rd TV show, I think, when it was rainy and blustery and cold, and Brent spent 3 hours with them just playing here in this mud. But they're so sweet when they still like each other like this. And once puberty sets in, of course, their affection for each other will start to reduce profoundly. Yes, Rob, to a certain extent. You're in Liverpool and you say the restrictions on viewing these animals relaxed slightly because they're a bit older. Rob, supposed to be never more than 3 vehicles in a sighting, and that will maintain. But yes, they can be viewed on their own now without their mother. They can be viewed at night now without their mother because they're over a year old. So yes, there is a certain amount of relaxation of the rules because they're a little bit older now and they've survived to this age. That's cool. Okay, I'm just going to call this in. My radio is now working again. In fact, I don't need to because it's been called in by Rexon. So I don't know what Karula's playing at. I think she's maybe thinking about going back to the kill. I don't know. But these guys were thirsty, so they came up to have a drink here. Now you see, the difficulty is that now they're going back to their mum. There's a sighting on the go on the boundary road with Karula. So suddenly you can have a situation, if we follow them, where there are 6 vehicles in a sighting, and that to me is not an acceptable situation. So we're not going to follow them down to the south. We will wait here and see what happens, though. I'll just go slightly forward. That's interesting. You know what she's doing there, Craig? If you can get on the little female in the front, she's almost marking territory. She's rubbing her head against that bush. I think she may even have sprayed it. Let's watch Hosana now as he goes towards the same bush. And apparently she did actually spray it. It's very interesting. See what he does. He's going to go to the same bush and smell it. Rub his head against it. Make a little mark. That's interesting. So they're getting a little bit more adult. They're starting to exhibit adult tendencies. You're right. You're right, Fish. You can go home. I'm just telling them they're trying to lend me a radio. Alright, that's going to be it from this sighting for now. I will hang around here for a little while, but I'm just going to let Rex have an opportunity to go and see Karula. We could probably go in there, but then there will be 4 vehicles in the sighting. Well, it was nice to see them having a drink, wasn't it? Good. I'll just see how many vehicles there are. There are too many there. Danielle, you say how often do they, or how long does the leopard family stay together? It really is not a firm answer, but the females will normally leave mum between, the earliest recorded was 8 months. That's very young. Xongile is still definitely very much with her mother at a year. She will leave between now and probably 18 months from now. She might stay longer, but that's the norm. And the male will normally leave between 18 months and 2 years. So he's probably got another year or so in and around this area. And that's because, of course, he is in a much more vulnerable state. He will eventually have to set up a territory and is outside of the domain of his mother's, and where he does not enjoy the protection of his mother or his father. And so he needs to be a lot more prepared, a lot stronger, and a lot more ready before when he goes independent. Yeah, there are 3 or 4 vehicles there, so we're going to leave here and see what else we can find. They might come back north. I'm not sure what the status is of their kudu. But it was interesting to see Karula's gash there. It looked like, to me, like a proper gash across the throat. And, unless one of her, maybe he caught her, maybe he took a swat at her while they were feeding and got his claw stuck there. That's possible. But, I've seen them hiss at each other. I've never seen them have a proper go at each other before. So I don't know. That could have been a hyena. Very unlikely that she would have got to the stage that a hyena would have caught her. Maybe she just caught it on a sharp branch or something as she was catching the kudu yesterday. That's equally possible. So I will just keep an eye on the radio. I'll listen up to what's going on, and if they come back towards the north, well, no, the thing's not working at all. If they come back towards the north, there we go, I've got them now, then we'll find out about it. For the moment, I think we're going to head off towards Gwen's den and see what we can find that end of the world. These are where the leopards came yesterday. We can see their tracks. This is where you followed them with Tristan yesterday afternoon. Alrighty. We'll quickly nip past Treehouse Dam. Maybe there's a hyena. In the meantime, Brent Leo Smith has arrived at what has become, I think, one of all of our favourite places.
Well, it definitely has become one of our favourite places. Now, I've been spending quite a bit of time with Boris. Now, Boris is the crocodile that's been living in Twin Dams. And this is one of the reasons I think Boris moved out. That's Vladimir the Impaler. There we go. Vlad is quite a lot bigger than Boris. Boris is about 2.5 meters. I would say Vlad's about 3.5 meters, probably having a couple of 100 kilograms extra weight. And Boris has decided that Vlad might eat him, so he's moved on. That is a very large crocodile for this part of the Sabi Sands. Again, it looks to be a male. It's quite difficult without having to see the head front on. I'm just basing on the neck and head shape. So the females tend to be a bit skinnier around the neck, and also their head's not quite as wide, even if they're the same length. So I know there are females here. I was chatting to Armand, who's one of the guides from Chitwa, and he said at one stage there were 6 crocodiles that they knew about in the dam. So that means we've only ever seen, or the most I've ever seen here is 1, so I'm sure there's others. Now, on a nice cool morning like this, there's a leopard close by to us. Monkey's alarm calling just behind us. Now, unfortunately, that's a spot where we don't have signal at the moment, but hopefully whatever kitty cat that is going to move towards us. Now, we've been tracking so many lion names at the moment, I'm getting confused. 2 Birmingham boys. They unfortunately crossed out of Chitwa. Now, there's a road that runs down there. Those lions, I suppose it could also be lions. The lions might have looped around. Could be Tundi, could be Tingana. Exciting stuff. Definitely want to go have a look there. Let's just have a quick look around the waterhole before I scoot off. And there we go, some hippos. Oh! Now Sarah's wondering, will the crocodile spend most of its life in this waterhole? It's possible, Sarah. It really all depends on water fluctuations and availability of females. Now look, those impala have heard the monkeys. See, that monkey is saying, be careful, and now these impala are steering in that direction. Okay, no, too much going on. I think we have to go check. And now, unfortunately, while we go checking there, the signal's a bit iffy, so let's go see what Jamie's up to on foot.
Now, this is a spider that I have really missed over the last few months. It's a type of spider that I used to see all the time, and I know that Steph's seen 1 or 2 on his walks. I think some of the others have seen a few of them. There is a massive spider web between myself and Viam, and of course, this massive, gorgeous spider, and a particular species that inspires terror in all arachnophobes out there, particularly when you get guests that come and see them. This is a garden orb spider. It's not a golden orb. This is a garden orb. Golden orbs tend to have slightly more orange tinges to their colouring. They also don't have the same short banding on the legs, and most importantly, their abdominal shield is quite round. It's not jagged in the way that this lovely lady's is. A truly beautiful, completely harmless spider. Can't hurt you. Well, it can bite you, but you'll live. It's not sore. It is a little sore. Let's rephrase that. It's a little sore, but there's no venom, is essentially what I'm trying to say. So despite her terrifying look and all of those danger colours, those warning colours, she's not venomous at all. She cannot harm you, really. little bite from those Chelicera perhaps might sting a bit. Now this web stretches, her anchor strand runs from here, from the top here, all the way down and then across from here. And you'll notice that I'm keeping a little bit of a distance back, and that's because there's the web itself and then there's a backing to it. And the construction of this sort of web is utterly extraordinary. Everything has a purpose. And I've done this before with an old golden web, but it would work the same with a garden web. I've taken these strands before. It was an abandoned web. Taken these strands, wrapped them together into a piece of string. And it was probably no more than a few millimeters thick, a tiny, maybe an eighth of an inch. And wrapped it together, you absolutely cannot snap it. It's one of the strongest, it has the strongest tensile strength of pretty much every substance on Earth. So it is an extraordinary thing that they create. And then the way that they're designed, I know that you see spider webs in the Djuma and you see the way that they're constructed. To watch them make it is utterly fascinating. And then down here is a strand of whitish, slightly different colored silk, slightly thicker silk. And one of the purposes that serves is to stop things like us walking through it. So it's essentially, it won't come onto the radar for the bugs that will fly into this web, but for something walking through, it might deter them from actually walking into the spider web itself. So antelope, anything like that come wandering along this pathway, they will walk around rather than straight through her web. And it just stops it from being smashed constantly and her having to rebuild it. No sign of any males around here. One fly. Kerry or Perry, I'm not sure whether it's Kerry with a K or Perry with a P. Kerry with a K. Kerry, it's not a dumb question at all. You want to know do male spiders make their own webs or is it just female spiders? It's a perfectly valid question because in some species they do, and in some species they do not. In the case of the orb spiders, they do not make webs at all. And generally you'll find with these sort of, not New World spiders, that's not what the word I'm looking for, the younger species in terms of their time on Earth and their evolutionary time. The younger species, the males, tend to hang on the edges of the web. And actually you often see in golden web or golden orb or garden orb spiders, you often see a male. But I don't see any sign of them. The males are tiny in comparison to our lovely lady, who is essentially, just to give you a sense of scale, let me put this hand up, that's how big she is. She's the size of my palm, at least, with her legs. The male spiders are... Male spiders are about a quarter of the size of her abdomen, much, much smaller, and run the risk of either getting a chance to mate or potentially being eaten. And if you watch the way that they work, they often tap out a little bit of a rhythm on the strand of web that she's on to say, please don't eat me, I'm a male spider, not your food. And even then, she might decide actually she's not really in the mood, perhaps she has a headache, and she'll go and eat him instead. So they do run a serious risk. You also often find, and unfortunately I can't find one on this web, I haven't seen that many this season. My absolute favorite, one of my favorite spiders, apart from baboon spiders, which is something called a dewdrop spider or a mercury spider. And it basically looks like somebody's taken a drop of mercury and put legs on it. It's a beautiful little kleptoparasite that steals from the webs of these larger spider species. And then down here, just quickly, I don't want to disturb her web, so I can't really point. Let me try with a blade of grass rather than my whole hand. Over here, there's a whole load of exoskeletons. There you go. Those are the remnants of things that she has eaten in the past. So she's had a jolly good munch on various insects from here. Jeffrey in Texas says, why so many people dislike spiders, I just don't know. I guess it's something that you're born with, in a way. Definitely you get used to them if you live out here, whoopsie. But I mean, my brother and I were raised in exactly the same way, in exactly the same household. And if he sees a spider, he will burn the house down, potentially. You have to watch him carefully. That's how terrified he is of spiders, whereas I've never been particularly bothered by them. She's beautiful. I think she's beautiful and fascinating, and they eat all sorts of hohos, which is the South African word for insects, obviously. Mosquitoes and all kinds of things. They are so useful. I am intrigued as well by the fact that we have such wonderful names for our crocodiles. Let's go and have a look, not at Vladimir, but at Boris.
Now, of course, Jamie has to say that because they were both named by her affianced, and so therefore, you know, Vladimir and Boris to Jamie have to be appealing names. I'm not convinced myself. I don't think they're bad, I must confess. I like Vladimir probably more than I like Boris, but what I think is great here is that Boris is having a face-off with a with a thick-knee who is looking at him with what I can only describe as utter contempt. He's almost saying to him, "Are you an idiot? I can see you." Now, of course, one of the games we played during the TV show is Who Would Win, or Face Off as we call it. Well, I put it to you, who would win in a competition of wits between the thick-knee and the crocodile? Both of them have very small brains. But which of these two do you think would win in a competition of wits? The crocodile Boris or the thick-knee Teresa? Kirsten says her money is on the bird. That's because, of course, Teresa has a female name. I have to confess, I think Boris is possibly the most gormless crocodile in all the world. Oh, Marianne, I didn't quite understand your question when I first started to hear it coming through. You said, how thick or thin is a crocodile's skin? I thought you were going to say, how thick is that crocodile, and I think he's fairly thick. How he thinks he's going to catch anything like that, I don't know. He's going to be eating smelly terrapins for the rest of his days, I think. How thick is his skin? I don't actually know how thick a crocodile's skin is. I mean, there's a lot of subcutaneous fat. The skin on the back with those ridges is obviously quite thick, but the belly skin, I think, is probably quite thin, probably only about, say, 1/4 of an inch or so, maybe a bit more, maybe 1/2 an inch. Yeah, 1/2 an inch, say just over a centimetre. On the belly, and on the back probably 3 or 4 times that. Now, while we're looking at Boris, the gormless crocodile, I would like to say that I have finished my researches on the giraffe. There are 4 species, as I said, but the subspecies do remain. And the 4 species are the northern, the southern, and the reticulated, and the Maasai. I will come back to you now. Hi, good morning. How are you doing? Good. We've had Karula, but she's gone south down into Gari, I'm afraid. Other than that, really very little.
We like watching the media, mate.
Good, I'm glad.
Morning ritual.
Enjoy your drive.
Morning.
Morning. That's one of the landowners from Buffelshoek, everybody. And he's saying that he, too, like you guys, likes to watch in the mornings. Of course, that's because they live in Johannesburg, poor people. So they need their bush fix when they're not here. So we have the 4 species of giraffe. There are a number of subspecies in amongst those. I was correct. The one we get here is giraffe. So there we go. Northern, southern, and then the reticulated and Maasai. And the one we got, of course, in the Mara was the Maasai giraffe, Giraffe Tupelskirchi. I like that name. Right, let us leave Boris, the intellectual, and head down, hopefully, towards Gwen, who I think is probably much cleverer than that. Oh, Margot, while we sit here, let's just have another look at that crocodile. You say, how quickly could she be able, or would he be able to launch himself out of the water should he want to grab that thickening? The answer is much faster than you or I could react. So if you or I were standing there and we were so profoundly blind that we couldn't see what the crocodile was looking at, well, he would definitely be fast enough to get at us. It does depend also, of course, on how deep the water is. That's the beautiful call of the water thickening. But they are very fast. They're much faster than we are. But an impala at that distance would probably escape. They've got to get really, really close to whatever it is that they're going to attack before they can grab them. So they're quick, but they're not as quick as, I don't know, I mean, they don't have the same reaction speed as something like an impala or wildebeest, so they've got to be very, very close by. They've also got a very fast snapping motion. They've got the most powerful snap-down bite, as far as I understand it, certainly the fastest of any other creature out here. And so that's where, or that's how they manage to grab their prey. They don't normally launch themselves so much out of the water as just grab something that is already in the water. And that's through a combination of subterfuge, which Boris is inescapably poor at, and then, there, he's being a bit more subterfugious now, and combined with the jaw speed. They can actually run as well. I mean, they'll move on land probably about as fast as a human being can. Yes, Kerry, you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm being facetious here. You say, given how long the crocodile has been around, and I think it may well be the longest lived species on planet Earth. I think that's well possible. Millions of years without any change whatsoever. You say you reckon it must therefore have some kind of intelligence. I'm being entirely facetious when I say he's a stupid crocodile. He's as clever as he needs to be. He will, obviously, my example is always that I bet he can't do calculus, but as far as crocodile life goes, he's perfectly capable of surviving, and he's adequately intelligent for what his life strategy is. It's obviously an extremely successful life strategy. He's having another face-off there. Now he's decided to go under the water, sort of. So, Potato, nice one about baby crocodiles. Is there any sign of them here? No, there's no sign of baby crocs here. Crocodile breeding is quite interesting. And, normally the breeding will take place along a river where females can set up territories. They'll chase males out of the territories once the mating has happened. And I suspect that this is a young male crocodile. I think the females would much more likely be in more permanent water, possibly the one in Chitwa Dam's a female, but most likely along the rivers where there are sandbanks that they can dig their eggs into. And I think you'll find that struggle here to find any kind of sandbank into which they could dig their eggs. They're very good mothers, are crocodile adults. I nearly said crocodile cows, but I didn't think you call it a crocodile cow, do you? I don't know what you call it. That's interesting. Never thought of that before. Very good mothers are crocodile females. They look after their clutches until they've all hatched, and then, of course, you've probably all seen that documentary footage of picking them up and carrying them down to the water where they'll have their first swim. Apparently, a female crocodile is indeed called a cow. Isn't that interesting? Is a male crocodile called a bull? It must be. A bull crocodile. It's quite a ominous sounding. Boris the bull crocodile. Alright, let us leave Boris. I've had enough of him. Let's move on. Something quite sinister about a crocodile. So just to reiterate there, I mean, my comments and aspersions cast on Boris's intellectual prowess are almost entirely facetious. But to say again, the animals out here are as intelligent as they need to be, because out of the countless thousands of species that have gone extinct because they've been unable to cope with the environmental conditions presented with them. Every single species that you see, almost insurmountable odds to be alive right now. I've just had a message from Kirsten. Going to wrap and go across to Jamie because she is indeed very intelligent, that she is.
Thank you, James. That is very nice of you to say. I'm not entirely sure how true it is because we've been striding through the longest patches of grass that we possibly could. And we have a very weary and very bedraggled combretum branch with us. And the reason that we have a very weary and very bedraggled combretum branch with us is because we couldn't find a guarri bush in this particular patch of soil, or this particular vegetation type. But Viam's been flogging himself repeatedly. I managed to flog the back of his legs as well. And the reason that we're doing that is because of these guys. Tiny, harmless looking, and probably the most dangerous thing out here. Okay, that's not true. They're not the most dangerous thing out here, but they're certainly the least popular thing out here. We had a long discussion about whether or not the world could live without ticks, and the only downside that we could see was that the oxpeckers might not have food, but I'm sure they'd be okay. I'm sure they could find something else to eat. The ticks, these are actually larvals. Larvals? It's the larval form of a tick. So they will go through, depending on the species, several different types of life cycle. One can be just one shedding of their skin and forming the adult. One can be 2, one can be 3. It depends on the type of ticks. Obviously, the bigger ticks tend to have 3 massive changes or phases of their life cycle before it is completed. Often what they'll do is they'll attach themselves to something, i.e. me and Viam, and then once they've fully fed and got all the blood they need, they drop off. They shed, and you get the next stage of the tick, and then the next stage, and so on. And usually you'll find the smaller ticks on the smaller animals, larger ticks on the large animals, but that's not always a defining feature. Now, I was just wondering what it must be like to be a leopard, or anything, walking through the bush, if this is what you can expect from your life. Now, they don't have thumbs, and they certainly don't have combretum branches. Luckily, they have each other in the case of the royal family. But I feel as though this is futile. They're just so stubborn. Liz, in Wisconsin, you say that you're getting itchy now. The problem with pepper ticks, I actually don't mind big ticks. They don't bother me so much. But the problem with pepper ticks is that the itch stays for about, depending on who you are, stays for about 3 weeks. And it goes through different stages. It goes through the really itchy stage, then it goes through the slightly infected stage, then it's the bit where it doesn't stop bleeding. And we all know about it. But what's frustrating about these pepper ticks is that they are not impartial. They're not impartial at all. They don't bite everyone. Brent went on a bushwalk, walked through some long grass, walked through a pepper tick nest. He didn't have a single bite on him. And I think that's very unfair. I give up. There's no point. I mean, this is just... We're still in the grass. I think we might just carry on and do the beating once we reach the road.